What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Scarab City Planet Coaster. Now, in the last episode of this series, we built the exterior or the flat ride extension for the Gears of Fear flat ride, and as you can see on screen right now, today we're going to be continuing with this build. That obviously was the build of the main ride itself and just getting the decorations and all of that good stuff in place. But today I want to actually build the front of the ride, so where the guests are going to queue up for the ride, where they're going to exit the ride, and all of that good stuff. So in today's episode, we're going to be building kind of like a grand entrance to this flat ride. Now, not many flat rides have this kind of extension out the front. It's usually just a flat ride and a queue line. That's kind of what we're doing, but a little bit more grand because this is in our Egyptian city of the park. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to have some nice water out the front, loads and loads of detail, and really just make it look kind of awesome. So as you queue up for this ride, or as you're coming to go on this ride, you're going to be going down this main path down the middle, and it's going to be a really good eye shot of the ride. So the ride's going to be right at the end. So you're going to have the main pathway with the water in the middle and the queue line, and then right at the end of that is going to be the ride itself. So it's going to look really grand. We're going to have some buildings on either side as well, kind of make it look like a tomb that you're discovering as you're walking up to it. It's going to be really cool, hopefully, once it's all complete. Now, there's loads of stuff to get done in today's episode, and we're going to jump straight into that and start building. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy this episode. Let's get started. So as you can see, the first thing I have done in this build so far is just place the queue line and the exit for this ride itself. Now, as you can see, it's pretty straight and it extends straight out from the front of this ride itself. Now, I have actually placed a few floor tiles on here. These ones actually get changed a little bit later on in the build, as I wasn't quite happy with the look of it. Also, the color changes a little bit as well. But as you can see, that is now complete, and we have put the pool of water out the front. So this pretty much veers off straight from the left hand side as you enter into the Egyptian section of the park itself. So it has a really nice line of sight when you come through those first gates. Now, obviously, when you go straight through the gates, the pyramid is right in front of you. That has the other ride in it. But to the left hand side, this is where this ride is going to be. Now, probably to the right hand side, we're going to be working on a roller coaster to go over there in the next few episodes once this one is complete. But as you can see, all of the pathing is pretty much in place now, and the pool of water is also where it's gonna be. Now, you may notice that the pathways I've actually used here are the natural ones that have these kind of wooden pillars driven into the ground, so you can see where you're actually walking, or where the guests are supposed to be walking. Do not worry, those are going to be changed a little bit later on, as I wasn't quite happy with them. They did poke through the floor an awful lot, and they were just really awkward looking, and I wasn't happy. So those will be changing a little bit later on. But the next thing that I wanted to do was actually work on this pool of water itself. Now, at the beginning of this episode, I said I wanted this area to be kind of grand. This used to be some sort of ancient temple that the aliens that helped build this civilization kind of put here. So I wanted this to look really, really nice, but obviously broken down, stuff falling apart. So that is why we're putting in this like kind of middle section to the water, actually kind of removing the gap between the pathing and the water and having it butt up right next to each other like this is a really good way of making this look a little bit more classy, a little bit more grand, a little bit more you know, ancient, kind of, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So like I said before, this pathing did get a little bit of change right here. I wasn't happy with the raised section on the path that I had used, so I've changed this out for, this is actually smooth concrete, and it's colored to the same color as everything else that I've used in this area. A little bit later on, I changed this color. I wasn't too happy, even though this looks very sandstone kind of colorish. It was just way too yellow, and in certain lighting throughout the Planet Coaster day, it looks a little bit green, and I wasn't too convinced by that color. So we lighten up the color a little bit later on. But yeah, as you can see, we're just finishing the circle right now. One thing I did do was actually make sure that the pathing on the right hand side wasn't exactly even when it came to the level of the floor, just so some of the pathing actually was hidden by the sand. This way it looks like the wind has kind of blown sand onto the pathway over the years, which makes it feel a little bit more ancient. But yeah, that is why that is kind of off key. That will make a lot more sense a little bit later on in the video once a little bit more of the theming is in place. But I just thought I would let you know that now, because you guys are probably really confused as to why I didn't flatten it out completely. So at this point, I was struggling to find something to cap off the top of this wall section that are inside the pool of water that we have right here. I was trying to use these really decorative pieces to make this look really nice, but for whatever reason I couldn't make these go round without looking really strange. And obviously this isn't a perfect circle. I did it kind of quickly. I didn't want it to be completely perfect. I guess back in the day they maybe would have been able to do a circle properly, but I did it a little bit off circle. Made it look a little bit more realistic, especially for a theme park anyway. But yeah, what I ended up going for in the end to actually cap off this circle was to use some wooden planks. I coloured them a really dark grey. I guess you could call it black, but it's not actual jet black, I don't believe. But I just used this to cap off the top. It's a nice wooden texture, and it looks pretty cool in the end once we get the rest of the detailing going in here. So we are going to have some pillars and some more decoration going on with this section, which really kind of pulls this whole section together. Now, what isn't going to be finished in today's video is the buildings on either side. I'm going to have some like temple looking buildings running down the left and the right hand side. I'll probably have 2 more paths going through there as well. Maybe turn them into some sort of shops where people can go in, they can buy photos or sweets or food or whatever it happens to be that they want to buy. But we're going to probably put some shops in there in the next episode. But yeah, at the moment we're just finishing the rest of this circle. So with all the prep work for today's build complete, we now move into the fun part, getting all the extra details, the final details into this build that really pull everything together. So like I mentioned, I wanted this to kind of be a grand entrance to this ride, or kind of like a walkway through. So as you enter to the left hand side, you're going to walk up this path, and in your eyesight you're just going to see this ride right at the end. In the middle there's this massive pool of water, which is going to have some pillars holding up some plimps on top as well. And then to the left and to the right hand side there is going to be these awesome looking, or I hope awesome looking temples, which have some shops and some gift stores in once they're all complete. That will be done in the next episode, but today we're just going to be finishing off the rest of this build. Now I want this to look overrun, like it's been left there for thousands of years. You've just walked in and you've discovered it. There's this ancient like civilizations that aliens helped build at the end. There's this machinery and you're going to go take a ride on it. That's the kind of feel I want from this section of the park. So we're going to get lots of bushes, lots of reeds and trees and stuff in here, or desert trees should I say, in here to make this all fit into one kind of build. I don't want this to feel separated from the rest of this area as well. So I was trying to keep all of the color schemes similar, but this yellow, like I mentioned before, it was just way too much and I wanted to lighten the tone. So what you can see right now is me just going in, changing out those colors, making sure it matches a little bit better with the colors of the pillars that I went for. And I think it looks a little bit better. Over the next week or so I'm going to be going through and actually changing the color of everything in this section, because that color I'm just not happy with. Even though it's probably going to take me 2 hours to go in, change the color of the whole pyramid, change the color of this flat ride, I think in the end it's going to be really worth it to lighten up that kind of color. Even the wall, the massive the wall that we have out the front of this build as well, that's going to be getting a color change. It just looks way too green. Once it goes past 12 o'clock or midday in game time, then the color just goes like a really funny green color, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good and I'm not happy with it, so I have to go in and change that, and I think it will be a lot better once I've done that. So the color, like I said, I've just changed it, so now I'm moving on, putting some rock work in. I kind of wanted this to look like sand piles or sand dunes, I think they're called, that are blown in, but obviously these are rocks and they don't really look that sandy. But it looked pretty good anyway. I was happy with the placement, and as you can see I have these like weird pillars that I'm putting everywhere. Don't ask me what these are. I just started putting them in and they looked pretty cool, so I kept them. I guess ancient civilization that's helped build this Egyptian theming or buildings. Maybe there would have been some weird sci-fi pillars here, I guess. That was what I went for. That's what it turned out. I'm sure you guys in the comments are going to let me know whether you like those random pillars sticking out the ground. I don't know, it just gives another kind of look to the place. And it was pretty bland without it, so I'm glad that I put it in. Looks pretty cool. So once those was in, I was just making sure that I was going in, putting some dead bushes. These bushes, or tumbleweeds that I like to call them, are really, really good. When you sink them into the ground, they just look like dead plants. They're kind of plants that have been there, they were alive at one point, now they're dead and they're all prickly and horrible and stuff. It looks really, really good for desert and also western themed. Especially you put them in between the rocks and it kind of blends the rocks into one bigger rock, if that makes sense. It kind of cuts your vision away from the joins when it comes to rock placement, and it can be a really good way of making a place look a little bit more overrun or left to grow, if that makes sense. So what you're seeing on screen right now was my attempt to put cracks into this this queue line right here. It's pretty bland at the moment, and I need to find something to actually go on there, because right now it is just one massive pathway. I don't know whether I'm happy with it. Like, I was trying to do the cracks unsuccessfully. I'll probably try and come up with a second way of doing that, because I think putting some cracks in that pathway would make it look pretty cool. As you can see right now, just going in and changing the color of that main wall on the left hand side. I was actually trying to change the whole color of the building that I put around the flat ride here in one go, unsuccessfully as well. So we'll have to go in and try and do that individually, piece by piece, I presume, to try and get that to be the same color as everything else. That's going to take a while. That'll probably be done before next episode. I'll make sure I do that before I start filming for the next episode, because you guys don't need to sit here for 10 minutes and watch me change the color of everything. But yeah, we're getting close to the end of today's episode. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's episode. If you have, please remember to drop a like. Feel free to subscribe. Let me know in the comment section what you would like to see in the Egyptian section of the park. And I'm going to leave you with a little bit of slow-mo footage of this ride and the pyramid and the general Egypt section of the park so far. And of course, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.